One time he stated that he had lost customers in his landscaping business because of his work on the planning board. And I'll never forget this. I was sitting to his left and he said, and he looked at me and he said, "Why do I do this?" There was a pause and he answered his own question saying, "Because I love this town." And that was like these words reflected my feelings and helped guide me for the rest of my years on the planning board. I felt the same way, but I never really said it. But when Charlie said it, he really meant it. And I could tell he and I shared that feeling and also the frustration, but never wanted to, give up on planning board and how the town was going to be developed. Always a gentleman, Charlie. And used to come over to my house once in a while. We'd sit in the lawn chair under the tree and talk about how great the town was, great people. So I miss him. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you very much, Don.
Thanks, Dan.
All right. I'd also like to have Dana Cunningham come up. Dana also served with Charlie.
Not 41 years.
Not 41 years.
Yeah, I'm a lot younger than that. So thank you for reaching out. I really appreciate that because Charlie was a great friend of mine. I used to call him Mr. Southborough. He really, really cared about Southborough. And I don't have anything written, but I like to tell the story of how I met Charlie. But I think everybody here would appreciate it. Back in the day, I was living in Framingham and I was the chairman of the Framingham Planning Board. And we had this really, really big development come in front of us, 990 up on Route 9. And it was all in Framingham, but it just kind of bordered right off of Southborough, but to the point where Southborough, they didn't have to come to South. So anyways, we had the public hearing and all the 990 people, the development people came, their lawyers, their engineers, people gave all these big presentations, PowerPoints and all that stuff. And so after it was all done, I said, okay, I'm going to open up to the public. Does anybody here have anything to say? And this one guy stands up because I do. Can you state your name? He goes, my name is Charlie Gaffney and I'm the chairman of the Southborough Planning Board. I went, oh. So he said, we're really concerned over at Southborough about all this traffic, this big development is going to turn off because they're not all going to go to Framingham when they're out of work. They're going to come through Southborough and use our back roads. And we would like some help with the planning board to make sure that you get these people to keep all the traffic on Route 9 at a minimum. So he gave that big speech and I went to the full board and I said, any questions for Mr. Gaffney? I'm like, so I think he was a little disappointed. So I closed the public hearing. I said, let's take a 5-minute break. He got up and I went over there and he came over. He goes, excuse me, Mr. Cunningham. What can I do? He goes, I didn't really get a good reception from everybody. Did I say something wrong? I said, no. I think they were all tired. He goes, well, you could really use the help. You know, Charlie, I'll tell you what. Believe it or not, I used to live in Southborough for 5 years from Deerfoot Road. And I have a lot of friends over there. So I'll tell you what, I'll give you my word. I'm going to put something in the decision so that we make sure they keep their traffic off your back road to keep it going. So you would do that. I said, yes, of course I would. He shook hands. He goes, I'll never forget that. I went, oh, anything to do to help you. And he was really appreciative. Not to make a long story long. Oh, I did say at the end, someday I hope to get back to Southborough. Fast forward 5 years later, I moved back to Southborough. I move into my house and within 2 months, my phone rings and it's Charlie Gaffney. And he goes, Dan, it's Charlie Gaffney. I said, hey, Charlie, how's it going? He goes, hey, I heard you moved back to Southborough. I said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I just moved to my new house about a month ago. I said, why? You want to come down and help me move the furniture? And he goes, no, I want you on the planning board. You got to be kidding me. wait a minute, my wife's right in the room. I gotta walk out. So anyways, he talked me in, he had a vacancy and he said, I'd like to appoint you. And that's how, he said, you did me a favor. Now I would like somebody like you to be on the planning board. Because you seem to think the same way I do about Southborough. So he appointed me on the planning board and that's how we got on the planning board. And I'll tell you what, there's no doubt about it. I'll echo what Donnie said and most people know. He loved Southborough. It was very crazy time, a lot of development going on, and he made sure all these guys did it the right way. So I'm more than happy to hear that you're gonna honor him tonight. So thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for inviting me.
Dana, thank you for
Thanks,
coming.
Dana.
And also Paul Semino got tied up and he couldn't be here, but he wanted me to share as well that he enjoyed his time serving as well, that Charlie was an absolute gentleman and he very much enjoyed his time. So I don't know. I didn't have the opportunity to serve with him, but I know how instrumental he was and why I came to Southborough. You know, the planning board over the years shaped Southborough. Don, with his time on it as well, and Dana, you know, especially during the 80s when there was the big development boom. And, you know, they made Southborough why we wanted to come here. It's a community, it's friendly, and it's everything we like. We're sandwiched between two big cities, and you've got quaint little Southborough in the middle. And that's because of the planning board that happened. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for making Southborough be everything that I wanted it to be. So I don't know if anyone wants to share anything else or.
I will just say, I didn't know Charlie myself, but I knew of him. And so it was a consideration. I mean, certainly like when I moved into town in the 90s and I knew all the activity that was going on planning board, little children trying to get to some of the meetings, didn't make it. They weren't weren't recorded. But, you know, always hearing about what was going on in the planning board, and certainly Charlie was a big part of it. So I no doubt that was part of the reason that I decided to join.
So I knew Charlie, I was a frequent flyer with the planning board. These guys know me, and Charlie was one of the most fair, the whole planning board were always very fair about public comment and always willing to listen to people in town speak their mind. And I think we all know him now in post planning board, and he always stood up at town meeting. And I think he always had a comment that was helpful and relevant for the town voters to think about it. And so I think to this day, what I know about Charlie was his commitment to Southborough. And I think we can all aspire to be that way. And I think he just leaves a legacy that I think is really hard to compare to. So my sincere sorrow for his loss, and I'm glad we're able to honor him tonight.
And lastly, we just have a little something for you. We wanted to thank you for sharing Charlie with us. Not always easy. So thank you so much. I'm deepest condolences. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, thank you for coming. Much appreciated.
Yeah, I think Doris had her hand raised too.
All right. What?
Doris Cahill raised her hand.
Oh,
Was she gonna speak?
is Doris,
Did
she
lower her hand?
Doris is here.
does she have her hand up?
She did, she doesn't anymore.
Okay.
Okay.
Say something?
She's probably not. So, okay, well, again, thank you. Thank you all for coming, but we're gonna get back to business now. Again, Brenda, thank you so much for everything, and thank you for sharing him with all of us. Okay, next on the agenda is, and again, thank you for bearing with us for this. It was important. It was important to the board. So thank you. Next up is Space School Building Addition at 25 Middle Road, landscaping and as-built. Brenda, would you like to update us, please?
Sure.
Sure, you can come up. Absolutely. Sorry, I should have said that to start. We'll have Karina give us an update and then we'll toss it over to you and then we'll take questions and comments from the board.
Okay. So if you recall, about a year or two ago, not even 2 years, I don't think, the planning board reviewed major site plan approval for Faith School for 25 Middle Road, a building addition there. I think it was about 9,200 square feet.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
They completed the construction this year, right? And so, in seeking certificate of occupancy, they have to supply as-built. So they provided as-built. Niche Engineering is their designer, so we have Fuss and O'Neill doing the peer review of the as-built. Peter Bemis provided the as-built. Niche provided, because he's local and he had the bandwidth to do it very quickly for them because it was kind of an urgent situation. And Chris Hodney from Niche Engineering provided the engineering certifying letter of deviations that were that happened during construction. I believe you passed all your building inspections.
Correct. With the fire department, mechanical, electrical, and the building department have signed off the last day of July. So the building is safe and functional right now.
Okay. The as-bills were sent to Fuss and O'Neill for review, and that was Friday, so they're not gonna be back yet. But they may have additional comments, once they do a site visit tomorrow. They're
coming
scheduled for
tomorrow
tomorrow
morning,
at
yeah.
10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock. And they'll be meeting with Zach Bemis and, the contractor from Rubicon to, look at the changes to the utilities that took place, the landscaping, the lighting. So there's three kind of things happening here. The landscaping, there were some changes made during construction, which, included more matching the planting to the rest of the campus, is my understanding. And some of those plantings weren't straight native species. I believe there was the sedge is one of the plants that the Appalachian sedge, that's still straight native, but they did add quantity. Another concern was that there were 3 trees that were removed that were there that were to remain. But when they installed, it's my understanding when they installed the new drain line there, that they were in that spot. And if you look at the as-built plans, the sheet down with the lighting sheets that shows an aerial there, you can see the trees along the northern side of the addition. And I don't know the age of that. I think it's like 2023 that picture was, because it's prior to the, but the trees were still quite immature. If you look at the other trees, they were much larger. And I know Faye probably spent good money to have those trees installed in the first place. But those 3 trees out of 5, I'm not sure the other 2 were there. The other 2 are there. So 3 were gone.
They're being made into, they are kind of bench in the building, not so.
Yeah. Oh, you repurposed them. Okay.
Used to wood.
And then there was some proposed plantings, trees. There were 3 trees that were proposed on the east side of the addition, 3 eastern redbuds. And I believe 2 of them were planted, but we recognized that 1 was not. And that'll all be discussed in how you're gonna mitigate that. So that's for the landscaping. I checked the native species, and the ones that were put in are, like I said, only the 1 was straight native species. The lighting was actually reduced. 3 light poles that were proposed were not put in, and then only 4 of the 6 wall sconces were put in. So I asked Casey, who's the CSL, who's the project manager for Faye for the project, if they could update the plans to reflect that, and they did. And they updated the total site lumen calculation and all that, and it's actually less light proposed. The third thing is that we kind of discovered today in talking with Fuss and O'Neill, one of the drain lines that runs where the trees were taken out has a slight negative slope. So it's supposed to flow from a manhole to a manhole and then down to a manhole, then into the infiltration. But the pipe that runs between the first that connects to the, and Peter can explain this better, but to the existing drain line, there's a manhole, and then the new manhole. This line is essentially flat with very, minus 0.1% slope. It's a 36-inch pipe. I don't want to really speculate on the issue. I think Peter can probably explain it better, and then Fuss and O'Neill will probably in their comment letter to us, see if it's a concern or not. And I'll make sure, you know, they're the ones who brought it to my attention this morning. So I'll let them opine if they think it's significant enough. And I think Peter's going to explain a little bit more why he feels it's not significant.
Yeah, we
But-
can speak to that.
Yeah, I don't want to interject my opinion on it because I'm not the engineer. So, those are the three things. So before us, we have, the as-bills. We understand, we know the deviations barring anything Fuss and O'Neill might else discover. The ask is for a temporary certificate of occupancy, probably with conditions to mitigate some of these things, in addition to if that Fuss and O'Neill finds anything else. I didn't see anything else myself. That was what I and Mitch discussed this morning. The other ask is the substitute for the landscaping, which is kind of tied to that. So I sent the planning board members my notes on that, and so they could understand the difference a little clearer. The as-bills that were revised by Peter Bemis and his son Zach are much better quality than what we had initially received from the contractor, because they usually don't do that to the level that we needed, and they weren't stamped. So Peter jumped in and was able to help Faith School because they're trying to open by the end of August and at least move things in already and then be ready to do that. So that's where we're at.
Okay. Thank you very much. I don't know if you could introduce yourself and you can respond, and that would be great.
Certainly. Thank you, Karina, for that opening. Very informative. I'm Susanna Waters, and I have the very happy privilege of serving as Faye's head of school. I've just completed my second year and am a very enthusiastic resident of the town in Southborough. I have 3 school-aged children. It's a bit of a homecoming. I grew up in Westborough and then spent time in Needham and North Andover, and it's terrific to be back in this area, close to family. Feel happy indeed to be part of the extended community and look forward to this as perhaps my first planning board appearance, but maybe not my last. Long career across the street. So thanks for having me here tonight.
Welcome.
Hey, as Karina said, my name is Casey Russo. I'm CSC Consulting. I'm the owner's rep for the school. This is the second project I've had the pleasure of dealing with Faye, and I think we're feeling excited about a new addition that we've built, and we've tried to follow all the, all the rules. And I think that I do want to sort of apologize for that. We were taking Niches Engineering's lead because they are your engineer and they know the rules. And if I had known that the things we had to do in order to get a TCO and a CO were as involved, I would have started much earlier, but he didn't make us aware that these things were in place as part of the order condition. So I do want to apologize for not bringing this up earlier and trying to get this resolved before we tried to finish. So we're here asking for sort of forgiveness for all the things that we are changing that we should have come forward and asked for. So that's sort of where we are today. But I think there are things that are reasonable that we hope, because the school is not going anywhere. It's not like a developer that it's going to do anything. The school is a part of the community and has a schedule. They really want kids to be in the building soon. So we're hoping that you'll oblige our requests tonight. So thank you for considering.
So also before handing it to Peter, I'll just mention that my colleague Diane Byrne, who's the assistant head for finance and operations, is joining us virtually. So you might see her in
Okay.
the Zoom room.
Will she be speaking, or does she want to say something?
Unless she's-
Okay, unless she raises her.
Why don't we bring her over just in case?
Yes.
Good evening, Peter Bemis, Engineering Design Consultants. So Casey first approached us as to find out if we had the bandwidth to complete the task at hand. We've done some other work for the school, so we were happy to oblige. Tight timeframe to try to get the information back and in time. So we just jumped on it. We know what the town is looking for. So that was the main thing. And you got a 6-sheet as-built set. We identified the deviations, brought them to Nich's attention, so they put that in the deficiency letter as a designer. I know traditionally you've seen us be designer and provide an as-built to you in this instance, which is there as the surveyor. But I would not put an engineer seal on this plan if we thought there was something deficient or of a concern. So I'll just bring that to your attention. There is a deviation in a drain line. It was a drain line, with very little pitch to begin with. It was gonna be at 005, so it was intending to have some drop with it. Construction is construction, things happen, and the overall gradient for this drain line is adequate to move through this conduit. And that's really all this is a place for water to go. It's a 36-inch pipe, so it's quite large, and it can move the water. We're comfortable with it. We're not the designer. You'll ultimately get a certification letter from Niche because they need to certify that this is going to comply with the drainage system that they designed. But I expect that they would do that for you. And I would be surprised if Fuss and O'Neill took any issue with that. There's really nothing here. There's
Are you
nothing much
guys
safety
asking
should
for
be
that
concerned
letter?
about. Excuse me?
Are you guys intending to ask Niche for that letter?
Well, Niche has provided it with the package, so they,
Oh, I thought you meant specific to the
Yeah,
drainage.
no, I thought Chris had identified the deficiencies and he's already noted because we identified that.
so the
Pipe pitch.
the thing that's been identified, the pitch is for record in his drawings, but Niche is certified that it is that condition will work for the system. So when Chris is on vacation today, so I called his boss and he said that because of the holistic nature of the system, that it was designed to be flat and that, the 0.1% pitch is not a deviation that would make it not work because it's based on the whole system and not just one run that's been identified.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were going to certify this thing we found this morning. So you're saying that they would provide.
Well, they
something?
knew of that, because it's designed as they intended it. So because they
Well, it's a
knew,
little different. It's a little negative. The pipe's a little bit negative. Minus
Right.
0.1% is just minus. You know?
again, I'm not the engineer, but they're saying that's within a tolerance for the holistic system, that it would not be a problem. And to your point about because it's so big, that's
Oh,
that's
so
their
you talked to
stance.
them about it.
Well, when you brought it up today, I called and asked them to just make sure.
But just understand, you have a direct line, so you have 2 points with a straight line, and you had to go around the building. So you can understand how you took something that had positive pitch to begin with, you're going in this long distance around to get back to that same point, tie in, and that's how they lost some elevation as they're coming around. It's not extraordinary. I would say that there's quite a few examples in the field like this.
Do you
Next
feel it's
door,
not an issue, Peter, because of the size of the pipe?
The size of the pipe is actually making me less concerned.
That's what I'm saying. Is it the size of the pipe because it's 36-inch that
Because it's
it's,
so large.
yeah. I understand what you're saying.
And then there's plenty of elevation within the system, so that if there was ever a backwatering event, you've got tons of pressure to push that water through the pipe. If you ever had this extraordinary storm that needed it at a larger size. So that's what I'm saying, from an engineer's perspective, this can be justified, so if the designer is gonna be able to get whatever certifications, and I don't believe you find person here taking issue with this under these circumstances.
Yeah, I hope.
There was one other second location where there was this issue as well. That's within the closed system, which is that infiltration system. That's just providing more drainage capacity, holding capacity. So again, no concern. They're very minor elevation deltas.
Okay, thank you, Peter. So I'll turn it over to the board. I think one of the things we need to consider is if we want to consider a temporary CO and what conditions we may also want to put on top of what's been discussed already. Mr. Maria.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to hear from you, in your own words, what has, so thank you, Peter, because that's very helpful. If I understand correctly, a couple of trees were removed specifically for that 36-inch pipe. Is that correct or am I incorrect about that?
Yeah, so that's the part the design disconnected from, because the drain line went where it was supposed to go. They
Yeah.
should have brought that to your attention during the process, because it was impossible to actually put this drain line in and physically save those trees.
Yeah.
Although a landscape architect said, save the trees, the design engineer should have said, trees cannot be retained.
You're gonna cut their roots.
Exactly. They would not have been able to salvage those 3 trees. So the right thing to do was to remove them. I don't think the school wanted to lose them either, because I believe it was a class that had purchased them. So you have that kind of awkward situation where a class purchases this tree and you expect the tree to grow, and when you come back to visit the campus, the tree's not there anymore.
What were they? What were the species and what were the
I don't know.
sizes?
So we went to designers, so I don't.
I believe they were silver maples.
Were they mature?
No.
You said they were only recently put in?
Yeah, they were 10 years old. I don't know what either way, but
I think the aerial and the asphalt's like the third to last sheet showed an aerial and
Yeah.
if you look, it's those 5 trees right there.
Yeah.
And I think that was a 2023 picture. Somewhere I saw it because I was talking to Lisa about it. And when you look at the other trees nearby, they have these big crowns.
Yep.
These look like immature,
Yeah.
taking
Yep.
hold, what someone might relatively newly put in.
So I wanted to ask you what your thoughts are about the non-native species that were put in. So, I mean, it's just clear on the condition that they should have been native. So I understand things happen. I actually did want to ask you, how does it happen? Because in my mind, you're not the first to come before us. I wonder, well, it's right there in black and white. But something happens along the way. So how does it happen and how are you thinking about rectifying that?
well, so the process of how we got here, so is the landscape architect specified the plant list, it was approved by the town. And I'm sorry, when we approved the plan list, it was changed from what they originally proposed and you approved a different plan list. Subsequently, after the approval of the plan, before we got into the project, the landscape architect was fired. And in so doing, the architect put the old drawing set into it because he's not a landscape architect, didn't recognize the difference. So the change that was made for the approval was not the drawing that was put in the set. So the contractor priced the previous set of plans and then those got put in. And again, the architect was reviewing a plan set that was previous and not the one that was approved. So no one would have known that they were not the correct native species plants that were approved. Okay. So again, it's shame on us. We don't have a good, reason why that part of the process happened. But the school also is willing to, if the board felt it was strongly that what has been put in is unacceptable, we would remove them. It is about a $25,000 to $30,000 cost to put something back in that was approved, but it's just a cost that they don't want to take on. So they'd rather remove it if it was a sticking point, for the board. So
yeah,
it's unfortunate it panned out this way, but this is sort of where we landed. So it wasn't like something where we tried to bait and switch or throw it. It was just an honest mistake that never got caught. And if you had a landscape architect reviewing the submittals, like through the process, they would have been like, this isn't the one that was approved, but an architect's that's not their specialty. So it was a faulty on the design team.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And I know you employ an arborist or something, but the arborist doesn't have anything to say about shrubs.
No, I don't know. We didn't hire an arborist for
Okay.
the project. So they wouldn't have an expert that way wouldn't have weighed in to say this is
No,
not
shrubs.
native. I mean, I literally took the plan list and plugged it into the websites Karina was telling me to see what it was and what it wasn't. So,
Yeah.
And it was sort of after the fact. So.
Yeah, and I today just went through an exercise and I said, well, I think Karina, you had added them up to 281, noting that the Appalachian sedge is indeed native, and just said, okay, if you were to replace these, because I don't know if you bought mature ones, but the figure that you're giving me means that they weren't like they're a mature replacement for 280 shrubs like that is along the lines of the figure that you just threw out.
And we felt like it was ground cover, so that it wasn't a super special tree that was meant to, speak to the whole landscape. So they felt like it was something that they'd be willing to give up if it was just as a way to do it. And I don't know if that's acceptable to the panel, but just something we had talked about.
No, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you.
Excellent. So, first of all, Susanna and Casey, welcome, because I think our experience with Faith School has always been a great partner, and appreciate your, mea culpa. And I get it. Like, there's turnover, the stuff happens. So I just had a couple of questions. So the lighting, I just really wanted to understand, because we were really worried about safety, right? And so I just wanted to understand the rationale for the reduction, why they ended up choosing not to put in the 3 light poles and the 2 extra sconces.
Well, I can say that the budget was consideration. That there were some things that we were trying to stay on budget, and when we got some of the pricing back, we looked at things to cut, and the program inside the building was obviously the most important thing. So the light poles we felt were like something that you could put in at a later date. So, and also when we came for approval here before, there was a lot of concern about too much light. He wanted a study to show that we weren't adding too much light to that area, because I know also that building is also used from the public from time to time. So that was the sense that we understood that you didn't want overlighting. So we felt like it was a good place to remove things. And we ended up realizing that they didn't need as many sconces on the front entry, because it's not as prominent front entry as the main entrance to the building. So we ended up reducing it by 2 to just have a light at each door so that someone could safely get in and out of the doors out of the addition. So that was the rationale, which I think is fair.
That's fair. You know, and I think for me, it's just, and for me, it was just safety, because you have students, like young students there. And it was just, I know there's not a lot of nighttime activity anyway. The trees, I know you mentioned the removal of 3 trees. I think some sort of mitigation. One, Susanna, thanks for saying you like repurposed and built stuff out of them. I think that's great, especially for the class that donated them, but some sort of mitigation for the 3 trees. We are Tree City USA. I think really it's important for us to make sure that we have native species trees. And so making sure that you do put them somewhere on the property, I think would be a nice condition to incorporate. I think those were my 2 key issues. I think regarding temporary certificate of occupancy, you know, again, we've always have a collaborative relationship. I think we were willing to do the benefit of the relationship and making sure that those kids can get in, because it is much safer to have them on campus than to walking across the street of 85. So I think the entire intent made a lot. Oh, that wasn't this one. Sorry, I'm thinking another one. But I think the entire intent is to keep these kids on campus, and so I'm fully supportive of a certificate for temporary, and then maybe just to be able to have that the tree removal to make sure we mitigate. I mean, clearly native species are so important as we think about ourselves as leading the state in being able to kind of incorporate like butterflies and all of the important things that our broader world does not appreciate for environmental protections. I think we want to covet that. So if there is an opportunity, not to the state of 20 to 30,000, but I think if there is an effort to make sure that some of the native species that can make a difference are incorporated. I don't know how we actually condition that, but I think somehow if it's interspersed, and again, like I'm not the expert here, I know we actually have Freddie here in our audience, but if there's a way that you have native species among things that aren't native species, can that help to if you have an area that's just non-native and we incorporate a couple of native species, can that support that? I don't know. It would be interesting to hear from Freddie.
I will just say that this is something that high school would be excited to work on. So one of our upper school science teachers, Jenna Glevsky, actually serves on the town conservation committee. And so she's having Fay school students work with the town. Currently, they just wrote a grant proposal for some of the signage around the town's trails, but they've also been doing sampling and field research at the reservoir and other locales. And we're teaching the children about environmental sustainability and an emphasis on native species, which is why this mistake is not one as a case educator we're trying to, it's like antithetical to what we're trying to do with our school's mission. So absolutely, I'm very happy to plant trees, to focus on native species. This is very curriculum aligned for the school.
Perfect. And then I would just say like kudos to Peter. And I will say that the as-built was awesome. Yeah. I don't know if that was Zach or you or like, I know you're trying to actually take retire and move on and give Zach a little bit more responsibility.
So, yeah. So, you know, he pretty much put a lot of it together, but collaborate on some of the issues. I
Yeah.
can say regarding this whole issue too on this, you know, we could come back to you with a proposal versus you having a requirement, just letting the school put together a program and come back. Because we, you know, if had good condition your vote to allow the temporary occupancy, you know, allow us to come back with a proposal, maybe better served than just demanding a certain planting scheme.
Yeah, I kind of like, I like that idea.
it may be a really good location on campus to do this.
Yeah, that was one of the things we talked about with the lighting about, you know, but in this case, plants, we could either, you know, maybe we can repurpose with the grounds crew, like some of the ones that weren't supposed to be native, put them somewhere else and we could replace them with native ones and then find a place for 3 trees on campus somewhere. That seems, but I like the idea. We could offer something up and then see if that's satisfactory.
I like the concept. I also like the idea that you have an employee who is part of the conservation, and like there are grants, of course, they're not federally funded, but there are grants for that. And maybe that's a process of the education system that to be able to say, like, we pursued grants, you might not get them, but like as an opportunity to teach students, it could be a really interesting proposal for you to put forward. Again, like we are trying to build sustainability in our environment and work collaboratively with you. So I personally like the idea if they came forward with some suggestions of maybe there's just an area of native that can really support what we're trying to build in the community.
We actually, I'll just briefly say, we have a sustainability core team that's comprised of the aforementioned Jenna, and then we have a primary and lower school coordinator as well. And then we funded and hired a new position on the operations side. So we have a facilities and environmental sustainability manager. And so she's doing things like measuring energy consumption and thinking about how to label all of our trees on campus so that it can be a learning experience for the kids, kind of like a living arboretum, if you will. And so this is very much in focus for the school, which again makes the irony of this less than enjoyable. But we are really committed and would like to come forward with a proposal, and having students involved with that, the execution of that would truly be a joy.
I was going to say, just completely sidebar and not to delay this any further, but we used to do this thing called the LEAF Project in 8th grade at Trotter. And I had it was torture for my first child. My second child didn't have to do it, but I thought it was such a disservice because he doesn't know the trees. He doesn't know the native species. And I do think like that could be really interesting as you think about the sustainability, is educating like the importance of this, because if we don't teach it, we will lose it forever.
Yeah.
So
we actually just refurbished our greenhouse this summer as well.
It looks amazing.
It didn't change the footprint. We just put a new glass top on top of the existing brick outline, but the mechanisms had burned out on the one prior, so it was defunct. And so the school is really interested in having focus on ecology. So maybe it's something we could even grow them from seeds and then have the kids plant them themselves on campus.
yeah, love the idea. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. So I'm going to actually expand a little bit. I was going down the same path myself as Marnie did. So I think there's great opportunity here. I appreciate that so many more plants went in, but I think that the native piece is very important. And maybe Faye, as you're putting a proposal together, could come up with something like a rain garden or, some type of, Faye has a lot of property. There must be a place to be able to put a little native garden in. And I would suggest Freddie is, and I'll come to you, Freddie, let me just finish this. Freddie is does the bee colony at Breakneck Hill, and she works with Dr. Gregier. Did I say that right? I didn't, of course I didn't, but I'll let Freddie speak to that. But I think she would be a good resource in putting together. She works very closely with the planning board on natives. So that might be very helpful to you in, and coming forth with some type of mitigation, and Freddie, I'll come back to you and let you speak. Let me finish going through the few other things I had on my list. So for the trees, also I would like to see, so we were short the 3 trees that got taken down and then 1 of the eastern red buds, only 2 got planted. I'd like to see as a mitigation, it'd be great if you could find, again, it's a big campus. Trees are very important. They're, to the environment. So it'd be great if on top of the 4 trees that are short, maybe you could add a couple more and, just put more trees. Again, trees are a good thing, native trees on campus. That would be great, and again, it might be another way to honor the trees that came down for those students as well. And again, I like the repurpose that you had mentioned and Marnie mentioned as well.
Can I just ask Casey a question?
Yes.
Peter, how many trees did we plant as associated with this project?
Well, we did, there's like big trees, low bushes, and then sort of ground cover. And I think the big trees, but there's a I want to say there's 6 that was installed and on the ground cover there was 100. So,
There was 7 trees.
we,
Yeah, there was 7 trees.
yeah, so 7 and then 7 trees and then you had 4 or 3 of the red buds. So, and then there's 175 of the ground cover and then going blind, 69 of the.
Right, so you-
Youth research of good native species. So he would have an approved list of trees that would
Yep.
be exciting to add.
Yeah, and again, you have a huge campus to be able to, you know.
Yeah,
do
it doesn't
some-
have to be at the project, I think. But what would the mitigation timeline look like? Because so a TCO is typically like a 90-day window. So is the goal that we would plant the mitigated plants within that 90-day window or as soon as we can? I don't know.
So I'm not a planting person per se, so I mean, I don't know the best time to plant. Obviously, we would want to be successful in these trees, you know, for sustainability for them, so I guess we could, if we did the temporary TCO with the 90-day window, we would like for you to at least come back and you know, have a discussion and have a plan for us of, you know, well, you know, we talked to the arborist or whomever, and the best time to really plant is in the spring, then, you know, we can condition your full CO on that, on those being done. But it'd be great if when, you know, if the TCO is done tonight, you can come back and kind of give us an update. That would be great.
That sounds great.
So yeah, so there was one, again, just to be clear, there was the proposed eastern redbud, only 2 of the 3 were planted. So we would be looking for that, something, the 3 trees that came down, and then, you know, the more the merrier, what you'd like to might add, and it, somewhere on campus, that would be great. And I'm not gonna touch on the slope, I think we're good there. And yeah, so I'm gonna have Freddie come up now. Freddie was prior member of the Open Space Committee. She's on this stewardship committee in town. She knows more about native plants and bees and trees and, all right, Freddie.
Hi, Freddie Gillespie, 78 Southville Road, speaking as a citizen. And I have worked with the planning board when I was on the Open Space Preservation Commission since 2017 on their native plant policy that is in line with their different sections of their zoning bylaw and for site plan. And I'm really encouraged because I was going to make a recommendation, and this sounds like, you know, a negative, you know, that is going to be a win-win. Because one of the things I was thinking I would have to convince or suggest is how to use these plantings in education. So right now I've worked with the Acton Boxborough High School AP biology science teacher. We put in a garden up there. We have Westboro, the whole 6th grade went and did a winter sow program, which I think would be perfect for you. I'll explain it, and I won't take up too much of your time, but and I just heard those were all seeds we provided here from Southborough. And Newton's whole 2nd grade did a winter sow program based on a program I gave them a few years back. So this is spreading across. And then what you do is the students grow, not just the students, we do it across town. We collect the native plant seeds, we distribute them, you plant them in a milk jug, and they put them outside over winter because they need cold strat. And then in the spring, you have lots of plants, and these gardens are going up everywhere. And these are, you know, the Newton school system, the whole 2nd grade of Newton, the whole 6th grade of Westboro. And I could see Faith School being engaged in this. The other thing I was going to offer is I work with Dr. Robert G. Gear. He's a research scientist, but also a associate professor at U of Mass. And we've been following his advice. He has a plant list for at-risk pollinators because not all pollinators are declining. And it's this is critical in the whole biodiversity and ecology. They're the stepping stone for everything. And we have species right now in our own backyards heading to local extinction, which is the first step to extinction. And at Breakneck Hill Conservation Land, by using his plants, we have we started working with him in 2015. We put a garden in, and it's a large garden, but in 2020. And he just gave me, it's in the thousands % increase in Bombus vagans, an at-risk species. And the most at-risk species in the area is Bombus viridis. These are bumblebees. In the hundreds %. He can't even, he hasn't finished the season, but we went from not many to, just, it's significant, not just significant here. People who have used our winter sow program are documenting the bees in their backyards. So it's something we could bring science curriculum to Face School to use with your students, looking at the bees, different things. Dr. Shigear would, well, I speak for him, no, not, but I can ask. And he has some programs and there's other curriculum things, even art and writing. I mean, and I'll just say this, that since starting this, one thing we see with all the people engaged, how much more they're looking and seeing what's happening and noticing. You won't believe the text, I get crazy. Oh, I saw this, and it's like, nobody was looking before. And this is something you can bring to the students, at this age when, it's so easy. We take them away from this to looking at nature. And I'd be happy to work with you and make suggestions. And what I'm going to say is there's a plant list that this planning board recommends, how the native to the town, native to New England, or on Dr. Shigear's plant list, because there's a few that are in the ecosystem, but not quite native to New England, that are critically important. And just like not all species are declining or heading towards extinction, then not all plants are as helpful as, they're all great to have natives. Any native is better than a non-native, but having it to be local to the region or helping these at-risk species and not cultivars. And, so I would just say that every plant matters, and the number of plants you have that aren't native or don't meet the criteria is significant. And I haven't looked at the full plan, and I'd love to. I think having two things, a program with winter sow, I'd love to help, set that up for you. But also the putting a native plant pollinator, we call them biodiversity through pollination gardens, somewhere on campus. It doesn't have to be part of that project, because what did you say, $30,000 to replace all those plants? That's not going to be helpful to you, right? So let's find something that works for you and works for the native plant effort that this planning board has embraced and works for the students in the school. So I'd be happy to talk to you later.
Great.
Thank
Thank you.
That sounds great.
That's
You know-
awesome.
You know who else is gonna like that? Our bees. We should have these little bees.
So I am all for, issuing the temporary CO with, with the conditions that, within the 90 days, you'll come back with a plan on, mitigating the trees and, mitigating for the natives, with any suggestions that Freddie may have working together. So I would be comfortable with that, and I'll just kind of go down and.
I'm comfortable as well. I hope that you'll come back before 90 days, but I'm not sure, but I think that a lot of people plant trees in the fall, so I don't.
Yes,
know.
I was
don't know.
gonna say that's
Right.
the perfect time, so
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah,
really good.
yeah, so the sooner you can
It's
get
good
it
timing.
together and come back, but I'm excited by what Freddie has contributed her knowledge to this topic for years with this board, and we're excited that you'd be implementing some of these things at Face School.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Okay, so we need a motion.
Did you want to ask if there's any?
Oh,
public
sorry.
comment?
Is there any public comment? I always forget to do that because I don't have it on my computer. Are there any hands raised?
No hands raised.
No hands
Five
raised.
attendees, no hands.
Okay, thank you. Now,
Okay, what am I making a motion on? Am I making a motion to recommend a temporary occupancy permit
correct
with
with,
conditions?
with the conditions,
As
yes.
discussed.
As discussed. Yep, perfect.
Second.
Great. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, Brascio, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Celine, yes.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
for your
Thank you
time.
so much, Freddie. If you
Appreciate
want to
it.
share your contact info, maybe before they leave, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful
Thank you.
as well. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you. Welcome to Southborough as well. You're still a newbie at 2 years. So, great to have you here. Thank you so much. Okay. And so that being said, next is a public hearing, a continued public hearing, 645 22 Turnpike Road modification to site plan approval. Okay. Updates, please. Thank you.
So a couple of last meetings, the planning board had asked me to follow up with Peter to let him know that planning board was looking for some progress to move this project along from where it started, and the modification was part of a condition for signing off on a building permit, I think, for the canopy that was added over the T's, which was really just a building permit. But in looking at that, we discovered some things. So Peter submitted a little bit late to get on this board, but wanted to show that progress was made on responding to Mitch's first review of your initial submission. And in the interim, I believe you also coordinated with Marnie some of the lighting issues, and you may have worked that out, I believe. So this submission for number 2 was sent to Mitch Engineering for follow-up peer review. So they'll be working on that hopefully before September 14th at the next meeting. I guess if you want, Peter can add to the changes then.
Absolutely. Peter, welcome. It's nice to see your smiling face. Any updates you could provide, we would appreciate.
Peter Bemis, engineer and design consultants. I'm sorry for the delay. We had obviously a little bandwidth problem because someone needed our assistance that we've worked with before. And I know that there's work that has to be done on this site. It's going to disrupt the business plan anyways at the site. So we're going to need to try to work around that anyways. So I think at this point, it's just trying to get all of our ducks in a line when it comes to this project, because there was a lot of items we brought to your attention. They didn't quite get done the way they were supposed to get done in the beginning. So we did prepare a cover letter addressing all Mitch's comments. Generally speaking, I think that we're close. The stormwater piece, they took issue with the infiltration rate we were using. So we basically have doubled the size of the infiltration system to support that. They also raised the question of whether the existing system is there or not. We never witnessed it. We didn't inspect it. I don't know if they did it. We know the pipes are there, so I can tell you that they did something, but we never, participated in any of that. And it wasn't shown on our existing conditions plan until we did bring it in now to say, here, we'll say it's there, and I put a note to it to that effect. So if it's there, it's there. It doesn't matter because I'm going to replace it. So that's the way I view that. They added patios that we didn't know were there. That's been accommodated. So that, we're doing things. And then the building in the back, that went in shortly thereafter, as you know.
Yeah.
And they did get a permit for that, be it right, wrong, or indifferent. And then we're going to provide stormwater mitigation for that.
But can I just interject? What do you mean you got a permit for the shed?
The driving shed in the back, they got a building permit for that. We
For the storage shed, yes, but the use was the issue. Just so you know, okay?
I'm just going by what we had a record of. Is it identified the year that they got it? It was in 2006.
But part of the modification is because the shed was a shed.
We're doing that today.
I just want to make sure that,
Right, we're trying to fix the
Yeah.
problems along the way.
okay,
And then it really came down to lighting. So the lighting, the greatest concern with the lighting was that what was permitted, what was built, and then how do we try to get this site into better compliance? And that's what the plan that we've provided you with does. We tried to designate the certain zones within the site, because you have L3 zones, you have L1 zones, you have a special permit that the plan, as in the zoning board, provided to this site, allowing a use activity to take place over it. So we wanted to give you these distinct areas, and there's 4 of them, and give you all of the lighting output from those areas based upon the fixtures that, in the case of the sports lighting fixture that we want to put in, because we already can tell you that the old fixtures that are there today don't comply. And we don't want to use them any longer because they're metal halide versus an LED fixture. So the better approach to this was, let's replace it. And then what's it going to look like when we do? Oh, yeah, it improves dramatically. So that's really what we are with the lighting pieces, to give you an itemization of what's there, identify the disconnect, if you will. We are in excess of the lumen level because we have an L1 zone and L3 zone. But again, they were part of an approval process that predated the requirement. And if you feel like a waiver or something has to be done to bring this together so that we're, raising our hands and we're acknowledging it, be happy to do so. It's the first time that you've seen it and the first time that Niche would have seen it. So it's a starting point. That's really what I wanted to get done tonight. So not to try to go through the whole thing sheet by sheet, but just to give you an overview of where we're at. And then the last thing was the architecturals is still part of the set. They have built the building. So thank you for allowing that to go forward. We just need to bring in these other pieces to the project so we can finalize it from a decision. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate the update. Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, just curious what you think the realistic time frame is to have all these pieces together. So right now, did you say we received something from Niche or
Just went to, I think.
just went to Niche? So,
For their second review.
For
Second
review.
submission, second review.
okay.
The project manager's on vacation this week, midweek, so probably towards.
So
the end.
September 14th, that will be your next meeting.
Yeah.
I expect it, I think we'll continue to that date anyways. That's how we had set this up with staff.
Yeah.
So I would say that we're on target.
Yeah.
If Niche was to come up with something new as a result of what we submitted,
Yeah.
I will promise you, if we get it in enough time, I would have it done, because I want very much to put this to rest as well. It's been out there for too long, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, and thank you for coming back and giving us the update. Appreciate it.
It's easier to explain what you have now. And then I think if you've had a chance to look at it, it's easier to follow it well at this point. Which you didn't have before. You had an old plan that just showed the site lighting at the back.
Yeah.
Because I was bringing it to your attention. You had none of the rest, because we only had the old plan. Now at least we've pulled it together.
Yeah, and I'm sure Marnie will say this, but when you're coming back before us, the site has to be now into compliance with the lighting.
Right, so what I probably would do though is put together a waiver letter, so because we're telling you in that lighting plan that there are deviations from what would be the norm, like if we were coming in today. But again, we have a site that predated some of these requirements. And we're trying to bring this into compliance as much as we can. And then obviously providing Mr. Hightower, who owns this project, the ability to platform off of this as he goes forward too, because I hope he makes more investments there.
Thanks.
Sulan.
Thank you. for your
Yeah,
time.
so thanks, Peter. So first of all, the lighting plan is beautiful. It's exactly what we discussed. Thank you. And I think importantly for this planning board is this, my recommendation is that we consider this as a sports facility. So it's a night sky IDA. So they do have 4,000 Kelvin limits. So while some of the Kelvins are out, they are in spec for sporting light facilities. My recommendation would be that in order to tie this all together, because the special permit gives him the right to build this facility, but all of the where they do the driving range and the lighting is falling in residence, but they gave him a special permit for the business. And so my feeling is if he asks for a waiver for the business, it ties in the site plan to say, we also as planning board grant a waiver because we see it as an LZ3, even though it's a residential district with LZ1 lighting, that he would fall in compliance with LZ3 lighting under the IDA Night Skies sports recreation. So I think if that came forward with a waiver asking for that, then it sinks it all into, so it's not just a special permit and it divides this land, but the lighting goes with the special permit. So I do believe that he's met the requirements for lighting and again, this, I don't know if this was you or Zach, but it's exactly what I envisioned when we talked. And it just made me so happy with the color coding. You have the very clear tables of what's required in LZ1, what's required in LZ3. So, from my perspective, and then just looking at, I did spend time on this because I actually spent some time. I was pretty comfortable with everything, the modifications as discussed. I think the key question, Karina, you just asked about the shed, the use for versus just the building permit. So I think that's part of the site modification plan. But I mean, this all looks in order for me. And so my only recommendation to you, Peter, is that waiver request before September 14th, so we can consider it.
We'll get that in. And, yeah, the goal here was to get this all brought up to a nice level, so we know what the heck we've got. And he did spend a lot of time on this.
Was it Zach?
That one, this one was, well, this one was a little bit of a tease back and forth because of the way the colors were, but yeah, that's where this came from. And honestly, we don't want you to set a precedent. You know, if you recall, I think this is the second airport we've made go away. There's one more airport. I don't know if that one will go away, but there's only one more airport to go.
Yeah.
So, this has had a tough history, but it's I think we're getting very close to where we want to be for
Right.
everybody.
Peter, I thank you for coming in, giving us the update. Look forward to hearing from Mitch and hopefully we'll be on track for September.
All right, thank you.
It was great to see you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Peter.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night. Okay, next up is National Grid Vegetation Management Plan. Did we put this on the paper? Do we need to read a public, it's not a
No,
public
it's
hearing,
just a
public meeting.
consolidated public meeting with the tree board.
Okay, so can we bring the tree warden over? And Karina, do you want to give us an update? And
Yeah.
then, is National Grid here as well?
Yes.
Eric's here.
So
yeah,
Eric Jones
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
and Chris is here.
Chris is here. All right, Karina, why don't you start us out and then we'll go from there.
Similar to last year for fiscal year 26, which runs April to March, I think it is. So this is the new one for fiscal year 27. Eric Jim Boris from National Grid, who submitted last year, also submitted this year. He made a couple clarifications on the applications once he submitted after we reviewed it. If you look at the application, it's really the last 3 pages of the
Yeah.
circuits that are in Southborough, 10, 11, and 12. There aren't any significant changes other than the locations of the trimming and maintenance of the trees. This will have to be, because it's consolidated, Chris Roy will vote, the planning board will vote. And then, if it's approved, Chris will sign off on a form that is standard, and planning board will have a notice of vote provided to the town clerk, and they'll be good to go next year.
Okay. Perfect. Welcome, Eric. Do you have anything you want to add to what Karina has kind of updated us on?
No, not really. It's just the kind of our standard trimming spec. It's basically the end of the circuit that comes down. It's mainly in Marlboro, but as Karina mentioned, the last basically 3.5 map pages are in Southborough, and it's really just those 4 streets. We've got Parmenter, Clemens, Pine Hill, and Nichols. And then the circuit terminates there. It is pretty grown in. It's probably been, I would imagine it's been at least 5 years since the circuit was last pruned. And that's our average pruning cycle interval. So just got to trim it to spec and make sure that we can provide reliable power service to the customers that are served on that end of that circuit that comes out of the South Marlboro substation.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Chris, do you want to add anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Ms. DeMaria.
Hi, Eric. Hi, Chris. This looks okay to me. I see just sort of these couple of zones or circuits. Just remind me though, this is just trimming, not removal, but if you see something that needs to be removed, like a tree removal, will you do that at the same time, or does that get kind of tagged for later on?
Yeah, no, we typically won't do any removals. It's just the trimmings back. I mean, it's, we don't consider like trees that are growing underneath below 5 inches or whatever the cutoff is, like brush type trees to be actual trees, unless it's like a landscape tree or something. The vendor does reach out ahead of time. It's Northern Tree that has the bid for the circuit, so they do 100% notification process with everyone that's affected anyway, just to kind of let them know that they're coming and what the what to expect. But again, it's just our kind of standard. We do 15 feet above, 6 to the side and 10 below. As far as our clearance specification, that's kind of standard. And then we'll just basically ground cut any capables that, like I said, if they're smaller trees that are considered brush. But yeah,
Okay,
no established tree removal type of stuff. Unless if there are hazard trees, then we can address that later.
yeah,
Um,
okay,
that type of deal.
thank you. Are you removing a lot of like, knotweed or invasive things that are climbing up trees and things like just generally not necessarily in Southborough, but as you're out there clearing the lines, are you seeing that kind of thing?
I mean, there's a lot of that, kind of invasive growth, but knotweed is actually, believe it or not, it's like a compatible species for us because it's only going to grow to be a maximum of like 8 to 10 feet tall. And if you cut it, it just is going to grow back. Unfortunately, the only real way to get rid of knotweed is with a kind of aggressive chemical and mechanical like removal type of invasive program. And it is part of our spec. Vines that are growing up the infrastructure will be cut, basically air gapped. And if there's vines that are growing up trees that are adjacent, then they'll basically gap the vine kind of near the base. So the vine will, at least the upper portion of the vine will die.
We're losing you, Eric. We can't hear you.
Oh,
Getting a little
Oh.
quiet.
how about now? Is that better?
I could
Sorry.
hear you, yeah.
I think I was kind of droning on a little bit, but yeah, we don't have any sort of rights to do any chemical control on the roadside. So it's just purely just cutting.
Okay, thank you. I'm okay with the plan. Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Chris. So this is Parmenter Road, Pine Hill Road, Nickel Street, and Clemens Street. So there's a specific bullet under there that says we do not currently have any hazard tree removal work. Chris, have you looked in any of those areas? Like, are there any hazard tree that we should identify or flag?
I have a list of trees that I'll be submitting for hopefully September for a joint hearing in that area. So there are trees that we are looking at taking down the town.
Okay, thank you. So we'll expect to see that with the joint. And then
Yep.
my only other comment was in section 4.2.9, where you say no debris shall be left anywhere that will potentially block access, significantly alter any drainage or water resource, or create any unsafe condition for the public. So I think the challenge for us is that there is still debris left, like it's not always the cleanest thing. And like when I've seen some of the circuits, is there any effect where you guys do clean up your debris versus just kind of leave it? Because it is unsightly. And sometimes when you do I know you do cursory debris cleanup, but some of it doesn't necessarily qualify as blocking access, alter drainage, or water resources, but it is unsightly and it just adds to the chaos. What is your policy there?
I mean, basically everything that's pruned off the trees is going to be chipped. So we really shouldn't be, and you might see some, a couple leaves or, very, very minor type of stuff, but all woody material is chipped and then it's removed off site. I think you might be thinking of transmission work. And this is just distribution only. This is the only roadside.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah, I
right.
know transmission generally, if they do sideline work, they'll just, remove the trees to the edge of the easement and dice it. And if it's the specific landowner, has concerns, then they generally will address that. But
So Eric, who's our transmission guy that we hold accountable? Can you throw that person under the bus for us, please? No,
I'm gonna
I'm
plead
kidding.
the fifth.
Okay, but that's good. So you claim no challenges here, and it's more the transmission, which makes sense actually, because I
Yeah.
think that is probably when I do see like just piles of branches that have not been.
Yeah, on the edge of the high voltage right away, and there's always issues with equipment access and whatnot. But again, that's not my particular area of expertise as far as this discussion goes. Like we'll clean up 100%, and Northern is a quality vendor. They do generally a very good job for us. So they You know, and again, the key to any issues is just communication, let me know as soon as if anyone has any issues and we'll jump right on it. So it's, I don't want to irritate anyone or cause any undue consternation.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Chris.
You're
All
welcome.
right. Eric, just one quick question for me. I think Debbie and Marnie covered the rest. So I know that the plan is from April 1st to March 31st to 2017. Do you have any idea of when you're going to start the work in Southborough?
2027.
Did I say?
You said 2017.
Oh, man. Okay, 2027. Sorry about that. Thank you. As I said it, I was kind of wondering.
We were a little late to the party this year because usually I want to get the VMP in earlier, but it was an oversight of mine because it's basically just the end of this particular circuit that goes into Southborough. So that's why the submission's a little late, but again, this probably, and as soon as it's approved or shortly thereafter, as the vendor has been, I think they had like 5 circuits total that they've been working on, which are all primarily in Marlboro and Northborough. So they'll likely get going on it, within the next couple weeks, provided that it is approved.
Okay, Eric, could you let Chris know and or Karina know, just so we can let the public know that, they can expect, especially on Pine Hill, it's kind of a narrowy road and everything anyway, just so we can let the public be aware that there will be some trimming and pruning going on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the vendor they'll notify the police and we do a daily notification process via email to Chris, so he knows where they're going to be working at all times.
Okay, just so we can, again, make the public aware and of what's going on. So thank you.
Right. Yep. Makes sense.
Okay, I have nothing further on that. Do we have a motion?
Okay.
Oh, 1 second, sorry. Is there anyone in the public? Keep doing that. That has a question or comment.
Marcy Jones would like to talk.
Okay, bring her over. Thank you, Karina. I keep forgetting, I even have it written down too.
That's all right.
I'm just gonna leave it here.
Good evening, planning board. Can you hear me?
I can, Marcy. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello, Marcy Jones, 18 Ladisquama Road. I do have a question for Eric regarding specs. I'm just curious, does the town of Southborough have its own specs that are followed, or are the specs universal? For example, if you drive through Sudbury, a great example.
That's sorry to cut you off, but it's a different utility. Sudbury is Eversource. Yeah, no, National Grid, we have our own vegetation management spec, and it's universal. So we just, it's kind of like the bare minimum that we try to achieve for clearances to last us the 5-year cycle.
Okay.
In between the pruning intervals. Yep.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer. My question was related to why the streets in Sudbury are so beautifully maintained with, lush vegetation. And here in Southborough, many of the trees are, resulting, the result after Eversource comes through or National Grid is some streets have trees that look like Pac-Man. So thank you for answering this question. I've been wondering that since I moved here in 2019. Thanks very much for answering it. Take care.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marcy. Is there anyone else with a hand up?
No hands.
Okay, thank you. All right, now may we have a motion?
Okay.
Can I just make a
Yeah,
comment
yes.
to Marcy? I also think it's a funding thing, Marcy. Like, we have so much bittersweet and we have a lot of dead, and it's just been a challenge. I know Chris is like actively working on putting like a tree plan together so we understand what we have and how to preserve it. We have a ton of overgrowth and we've just never, like our capital management, we've really never set aside the appropriate amount of money for DPW to actually do this in a really preventative and constructive, forward-thinking manner. And so always something else comes into priority, like, I don't know, a NERI roof that we just need to now pay millions of dollars for. So I do think, my own sense is like whether a citizen's petition or something like that could make a difference. But I just think it's a capital planning situation. And I think Sudbury, Wayland, Newton, Wellesley, they all do that as part of like really formalized planning programs. And we just aren't really maybe we're still nascent. We're just not that mature as a town to be able to think about that.
Great comment.
Well, I do just want to add though that if, you know, like we have talked about on our scenic roads, whether or not we can influence how much of a chop away can be had, because I mean, sometimes you drive down the road and it does, look. She said Pac-Man,
Pac-Man.
it looks like a piece of the pie is missing. And it is true that in other towns, we don't always see that. Is that because the other towns have more trees? And so there's maybe more trees, you don't notice if one looks like it's chopped away. But Eric, is there anything, I mean, this has been a concern for me and also planning board members for a long time. Is there anything that can be done to petition you to take off less than your standard, let's say, on our scenic roads?
I mean, I think part of the problem is that if you have mature trees that are planted directly underneath major infrastructure that want to be 100 feet tall, and then your average height of the wires is, 35, 40 feet, you're going to be kind of have that, utility impact after the tree is pruned. The fact of the matter is pruning does not generally really hurt the tree at all, especially hardwoods. They're going to regrow pretty rapidly. And 5 years is a long time. I don't know if you've driven up Pine Hill or any of these roads that we're about to prune out, but it is really, really grown in. So it's, like I said, it's after a couple of years after we come through, it's almost like we were never even there. And especially if it's mature hardwoods or any of those species. So it's again, our spec is kind of designed to be a bare minimum, just to kind of tide us over. And as everyone knows, I mean, trees are one of the most major causes of power outages. So we're just trying to get the clearance spec that is our standard spec, and try to guarantee reliability for that time period. So I guess the short answer is no.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I mean, when we think about a tree replanting program, we're definitely not going to be planting underneath wires. There's some of these trees are not great places. We understand. Yeah.
Right. And a lot of trees are in really bad shape too. So it's been, we've had some tough years especially for the ash and the oak and the maples. They've had a tough time. So it's, as tree health kind of declines, then you kind of reach a tipping point where you start to experience a lot more tree outages. So we kind of mitigated that with a good part of the town, because 2 years ago, our hazard tree removal program came through and kind of on all the main parts of the town, more toward the center and Route 9 and 85 and everything else. We did remove a lot of trees, and we partnered with the town on that. We did do some tree replanting, and reliability has subsequently improved drastically. So, it's just a constant struggle. You just have to kind of look where your priorities are and just identify the problems and mitigate them as they come up. So.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. So I'm well set.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the National Grid Vegetation Management Plan for fiscal year 27.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Brascio, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Julianne, yes. And Chris has to
And
vote.
Chris, would you like to vote?
Chris Leroy, tree warden, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very
Eric,
much.
for coming in. Thank you for answering all the questions. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up is ZBA proposed two-family dwelling zoning bylaw. I believe we have Doris in the audience. Can we bring her over?
Is Kristen Lavalta involved?
No.
No,
No,
it's just Doris.
just Doris. Good evening, Doris. Can you hear us?
Not yet.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Welcome. If you'd like to give us an overview of what ZBA is thinking of doing, I know this is going to be a public hearing at our September meeting. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks a lot. Good evening. We just completed our first public hearing actually at our last ZBA meeting last week. so what the ZBA had agreed to do, based on some public input when we were at planning, for the ADU, bylaw, was to take a look at the, two-family, zoning conditions and the definition of, two-family. And since that point, we've had a few internal meetings and had a public hearing, and you should have in hand, a draft warrant article from us.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So,
Also, Lara provided a handout from the forum,
Oh.
like a clarification.
I'm sorry, I didn't go to you, Karina.
I'm sorry.
No, please.
No,
Sorry.
I didn't want to start. I think Doris is the perfect person to start. I just
Okay.
wanted to remind you that I did send one out because it was late later in the day today.
Okay.
It was Doris, Lara had provided us a one-page handout comparing ADUs to two families. Did you get a copy of that?
yes, I always want things earlier, but I'm really appreciative of it, based on the public hearing. So I did get a nice layout of definition, like what's the differential? That actually came up at public hearing. So that's worth looking at for everyone,
Just want to
for
make sure you're
sure.
aware.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, it came in very late. That's fine. Earlier is always better, but I get it. I get why we're late.
Which, yeah,
This one?
yeah.
Thanks.
Can
I'm
help
sorry
me a
to
little
interrupt
bit. I
you.
didn't realize
Almost.
my camera's not on. Can you see me even at all? I'm in a very dark space,
Yeah.
which I
We
can.
like the
We see
beach.
your palm tree.
We like the beach.
No, that's a fake background. Don't get too excited.
It's good anyway.
Oh, there's a light in here. Hold on.
We're
Bear
gonna
with
put
me.
up the schematic, Doris.
Yeah, okay, I wish. No, I'm in a good spot here. Hold on. You put up the schematic. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's gonna help people. It doesn't help me.
We see,
It's
oh, you
very
see
tech-
now. Yeah.
I am not at home. I'm on my phone, so that's gonna make, okay, yeah, I've got it in front of me. I've have all these, so we had the public hearing, and before I jump into this, this handout that you're showing everyone, we were looking at this because there was valuable feedback, regarding, the ADU, change that we had made to better fit with the town that was overwhelmingly approved at town meeting. And that feedback talked about, there was a line item in the multi-family housing, that said you had to wait 2.5 years. Is it 2 years? 2 years, 2 years so you could actually, it's kind of odd. You would go in with the intent, to build a home, but make it a defined two-family. But you really couldn't do that for 2 more years. So you could actually, I don't know, build a shell structure, then return to special permitting, and then it would become a two-family. So it just didn't seem logical or fair. How did that get there in the code? There was some feedback how that might have arrived in the code. We did compare towns, and no other adjoining towns, except for with Framingham, for instance, had this in their bylaw, that someone wanted to, whether it was an individual or a developer, put up a two-family in an allowable residential district. So that's what got the ball rolling on this, and that is removed. If you look at the comparison of the warrant, that is removed, and it's addressed in each zone, all the different building zones throughout the code, removing that one line of code, not adding any additional conditions than the conditions that exist, and not addressing lot size, like putting a lot size condition on it, which you might see in various forms in adjoining towns or towns that are next to us or towns that are additional size. So that's the meat of the warrant, as to it looks longer than it maybe necessarily needs to. And then you get into the definition, and we did get into quite a bit of feedback on the definition. And then I got some new feedback. Did you get this, Corinne, today? There was some other feedback that came through email today about the definition.
From Marnie. Marnie
Yeah,
had
from
provided
Marnie.
some comments back to Lara. And I don't know if you copied Doris,
I
but
didn't. Lara copied Doris in the response.
yeah, Marty had some comments just working with Lara a little bit, having reviewed it beforehand.
Yeah, so on the definition, and then distinguishing it as this chart shows, do we have enough distinction that there's not going to be confusion by adding, I'm open to suggestions, whether we want to put it in the definition. We could use guidance. I could see that there's some definition questions. What's the difference between an accessory dwelling unit, an ADU, and a two-family? But this kind of lays out, ownership wise, structurally, how they're different. One is generally interior accessory to two families designed with walls and separation, zoning, building code differences. On utility differences, two different utilities and so forth. So I'm not opposed to putting, and I'll bring it back to the board, more clarity of what a two-family versus an ADU is. So that's my thoughts on that. The thing that came to me on Marnie's comment, and I at one point felt the same way, and it had to do with the ADUs and the state change, is in our code we call it family. I don't know if other people read this memo. We call our single family, and we've repeated that in this new definition. And we have two families. I think the state calls it residential living units. Marnie had some concern that in 5 and 10 years, maybe I have that concern too, that what's the definition of a family? You wouldn't want to make it so narrow is a definition. But then we're into other areas of the code. Is it better to call it a residential living unit? I don't think she's definitely saying that. It's just something I've thought about back when ADUs were in their infancies. Why are we calling it a single family unit as opposed to a single residential unit? So you're not running into blood relatives, I think is what Marnie said, in one unit. Some defining that. So we got some positive feedback. We had feedback we're researching, which I don't even know if I want to bring to the table. We don't know if it's relevant or not. So there was feedback on the definition. I'm open to more feedback to make more revisions. I like Marnie's feedback. I have that question too, but with the reservation, we'd be in other areas of the code if we don't use the word family, which kind of defeats the purpose of keeping it simple, maybe making that a goal for later. Any thoughts? It sounded people were supportive. There was one concern that it was a residential RB, that when we state in the warrant, I couldn't clearly explain because what the concerned resident had or the developer had was if we have RB, that RB has minimum square footage and somehow trigger them being non-conforming. So I can't really address it. We're going to ask our building commissioner Rubio. There's no intention in this change or removing this line of code and putting a definition to disrupt and make another district non-conforming by defining two-family housing or removing this one line. That's certainly not the intention, but we're trying to get an opinion when he returns from vacation. I think it's this week he comes back.
Okay.
Okay, I think I've got it all in. I hope I didn't talk too fast, which sometimes I do.
Nope, you're good. I think so. I'm
Okay.
gonna go to Karina first before I go to the rest of the board. I should have done that first. So if there's anything you want to add on top of or what we should have known prior to.
Just so everyone's aware, Lara is gonna work with Colleen while I'm out this week. A legal ad needs to be put in the paper by next Wednesday, the 26th. So we can do the public hearing for planning board on September 14th. And then we'll have one more meeting September 28th, 29th,
Sorry, 28.
28th for a second, and then town meeting will follow that. So what we want to do is this week, Colleen will distribute the red line and clean version to the town departments, just like when we get a submittal. for application for any comments from the other town departments. And we'll see what comes back and we'll present those comments at the public hearing opening. That's when I'll read the legal ad when we have that in. And it'll go in the newspaper, the planning board puts those in for warrant articles. And then we will.
Karina, I misspoke.
Yeah.
So you're having a public hearing. We're having a second public forum. I may have interchanged those words.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah.
The second
Yep,
public
okay.
forum? When is
We're having
that?
It's gonna be at our next ZBA meeting. We're
Which is
opening that up. Yeah. You double check with Laura.
Okay.
We thought that it went well, just to get it out there.
Okay. That's
Okay,
helpful.
believe so. Yeah, just sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's good to know, because she'll probably do another flyer and then,
Yeah.
okay.
Was there anything else, Karina?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so Deb, I know you were at the forum,
Mm.
so I'd be interested to hear about that on top of any comments or questions you might have.
Yeah, so thanks for having the forum and Doris for entertaining my questions. And it was a really nice opportunity for the developers to drop in and start socializing, and I really enjoyed it. I had a couple of things. I mean, first of all, it's nice to see the Zoning Board of Appeals take the lead on this, because I know that, you know, Doris and I and others have worked on multifamily or like ADU before it was ADU by right. And the whole vision of, you know, families coming together, being able to move back into with each other, or carving a space where the grandparents or the parents could come to live. I mean, this is really where, you know, I think that we're getting very like creative with housing. And I think that the definition for me, and also evidently for Marnie, is and others is the thing that, you know, I think we're, you know, maybe needs some attention. I have no concern at all about taking out the 2-year, you know, the statement that the lot on which the one family residence is to be converted to a 2-family dwelling must be minimum 50,000 feet, but also that there's a 2-year limit or something on that. I can't even put my head around like what was going on in those years that was done. So I'm all in favor of taking that piece out. I had another couple of thoughts though, and one had to do with, I don't know why, but it struck me that we're changing the definition for industrial and the industrial district. And I know that, you know, this is just really a change to the language. We're updating you know, making it more modern. I guess we're modernizing, sort of standardizing the language. But, you know, as a board that's looking to kind of shape the future of the town, do we really want duplexes or multifamily in the industrial district, or should we just take it out? Like, I know we're just trying to keep everything else the same, but I just wonder, and there probably are multifamilies there. So, or maybe there's a home that wants to become a multifamily, but maybe they would have done it by now. So I just feel like weird that we have industrial there, because I think of us as a town, we're trying to carve out areas where we're saying, okay, this is where a business, you know, district is, and this is, now we've just revamped our IP. And do we really want to put that in industrial, or just want to remove it from industrial? So that was one of the things that, you know, I brought up, but mainly it was on the definition. And I kind of stumbled across it, and the board entertained my comments. I did not have this visual, because I was thinking, you know, is a multifamily actually one kind of an ADU? And so now this visual is really great, because it's really, it can be, I guess, but it's not necessarily. So thank you to Laura and to, you know, Doris and everybody for providing that. You know, this represents a different kind of housing, because I was a little bit worried that we should maybe be thinking about revising their ADU definition, but then we get into like sort of a sticky situation with, does it, you know, stray too far from the state? So this is very clear to me, Doris. So I'm really, happy that you guys put that together.
Yeah, it really clarifies it, you know, even though I may think it internally, it's gonna be a good visual. We're gonna hang on to it for town meeting. We get to town meeting, for sure. So no, it was important to take a look at it for sure.
Yeah, the only thing I would do is on the little Yeah, for a slide later on, but because the ADU could be on, could be upstairs, downstairs, side by side, detached. It would be sort of like a nice, if you can kind of depict that on those little kind of bubbles along the left.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we ended up with, not necessarily a problem, but, so how we got there was, with, besides how did that 2-year rule get in there? It's housing also is ancillary, it's to the problem. Somehow, although we do not have a tsunami of, 2 families, maybe this is at the root of it, or maybe it's the root of the way the neighborhoods are developed. But it's going to help housing. We're such a small town to begin with. One house is important. That's just my point of view.
I
One house.
agree.
Yeah, I just think it is done at a grassroots level to change things and simple. So have more of a skill set that if I could hone in on something very detailed that seems easier to change. It's very hard to overhaul large
Yeah.
sections of our code. It's too big of it's a problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So on the industrial side, and I can bring that back to the board, but I'd like to hear what other members have to say of planning when their turn comes up. I'm not sure, and that would be more of a zoning question is, when we have industrial, we have RB, which is residential industrial. Is that how that works? So we had not, if we had never had multifamily and industrial, is that what you're saying, Deb? I don't know that
Well,
answer
we-
definitively.
Right, no, we must allow it because I think all you're doing, it is allowed, so all you're doing is changing the definition. So what I'm, thinking is like, is that a decision that, you want to say now, like, that's kind of not a nice place to live and start families because there should be like, industrial. So that was my only thinking is that, do we want to just keep everything the same or just remove
we've
that?
gone through E-code many times. That was we need to get all the districts. So I'm making the assumption, because Lara did that back end work for me, that we panned all the districts so that they all got the update simultaneously. So it would be a change, a removal of something. It was a removal of something that pre-existed. Yeah, I have a thought on that. But let me hear from other members of the board. It's just to get success. So I always think that way. It's not that you're wrong or I'm right, or I want to get success to get the most egregious part of it corrected. That tends to be where I tend to focus. But I know, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about. Nobody's going to want to go there anyways, but you just never know. Maybe I can't say this. I've heard that feedback on others. Nobody would ever put their ADU up for affordable housing. But you can put your ADU, and that's because maybe you never want to have someone go out to the state site and have a stranger living in your house, but people do have renters living in their house. So those units could become affordable. I'm not 100% positive that be on a 2-family, but I know on an ADU, you can put an affordable unit that would add to our inventory stock, although no one may ever utilize that.
Yeah, and I agree, the 2-family, it offers something slightly different than an ADU, and I think that is needed in town. That, I would say that's the definition, there's this, I'm not sure about the definition, and maybe because of the word townhouse and duplex are in there, because I don't know really, and I still haven't looked it up since the meeting, but I don't know whether that introduces another definition. Are we trying to define 2-family dwelling in a way with older terms? Like, I'm not even sure duplex is a older term, or what that term actually is. Is it the same thing as the schematic that you just showed for the 2-family dwelling? So I hadn't read Marnie's comments until just right here at the meeting. So I think there's concern about trying to put a definition onto dwelling, which may or may not be accurate. And for me, it has mainly, because it's larger than this actually by showing, the schematic. But I think for me, it has to do with like the putting in parentheses townhouse with the shared wall, or the upstairs, downstairs duplex, divided horizontally. And I think that's just a visual, but I don't know if it's legal.
No, it's No, it's a point. What happened to the word townhouse? It could be two
Yeah.
townhouses, yeah. So, when there's too much in definition, maybe leaning towards, we just can't say two family, we have to, yeah. And then,
Yeah.
because that's what they did at state levels. That's why they ended up with residential dwelling, same discussion in all likelihood. So it's just something to bring back to the board and, remove it, just why?
Yeah,
further
we're
define it?
simplify it, and I think this,
Yeah,
my comment is
simplify
even
maybe the
different than.
result. Then we don't have
Yeah.
a problem. And then we're back to, is it a two families, a family that were, they're very good comments. But maybe remove it when, but we can, as we listen to other members' feedback,
Yeah.
we'll get to something that, yeah, because we could, what they call the disruptive definitions, disruptive tech, especially English language, we're going to enter a new word that was never, we didn't say Uber, 25 years ago, right? It's so there's going to be, maybe we have Uber side by sides. I don't know.
Can I ask a quick question?
It's the fact that two families or two residential units are living in a structure, or two side by side structures, or horizontal or vertical. I'm listening.
Doris, I have a
Stop.
quick question just for
Yeah.
everybody here. So in the IP district, right? I don't see a change in the red line of this bylaw to the IP district. And in the IP district, there is no residential.
Right.
I'm just confirming that. Okay,
Yep.
I wanted,
Yep.
because I thought I heard like it's there, and I'm like, okay.
That's why I thought, like, as we were cleaning up the IP district, we removed housing because we said that's not really where I want housing. So if we're just doing a cleanup, which I fully support, Doris, I think for me personally, I'd like to see it removed from
Okay,
industrial.
we're all
That's my
talking about the
personal
same
opinion.
thing. My question to was,
Not just industrial park.
Right, because
You're
it's
saying
out of the
industrial
park
also.
already.
Right.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
that's what I
We
heard.
just took
wrong.
it
I
out of
thought you
here.
said
we
industrial.
can follow that. If it wasn't there before, because that's what we were I was like 3 sentences back. If it wasn't there before, I'd lean toward not adding it either. If it wasn't there before.
Okay, thank you, Doris. Deb,
Okay,
did you have
that's what I'd
anything
lean
else?
towards
Okay.
as we move through people. Complicated. You'll
All right.
it was
Thank you,
complicated.
Doris.
I agree with that. Okay.
All right, Marnie.
Thanks, Doris. Yeah, so I think when we think about the definition, so I go to E-code, right? And so the problem is we have an accessory dwelling unit, which I actually think is a really good descriptor. So if you can kind of do it in the same way, it says a self-contained housing unit inclusive of sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities on the same lot as the principal dwelling. An accessory dwelling unit shall maintain a separate entrance either directly from the outside or through an entry hall or corridor shared with the principal dwelling sufficient to meet the requirements of the state building code for safe egress. So I think something like that. So without the townhouse, something simplified, but like, how do you, in the definition itself, how is accessory dwelling unit different from dwelling unit, which I'm going to suggest you guys do dwelling, comma, two family, like we have dwelling, but in our definitions, if you continue to scroll down, then we have dwelling, multifamily. The worry here is it says a dwelling containing 2 or more dwelling units. That's it. Next, we have a dwelling unit, a single unit providing complete independent living facilities for 1 or more persons, including permanent provisions for living, sleeping, eating, cooking, and sanitation.
No, I get it. Yep.
Then we have a definition for family. And then we have, and then we are now proposing 2-family dwelling. So I think it's kind of taking those 4 and trying to see, is this, like, this is the challenge with any zoning, and Doris, you know this. Once
don't
you
know if I
change it
know it,
somewhere, it affects everything in the code everywhere else. And so, like, my suggestion for Deb, your perspective on industrial, don't touch it. Make the changes in this, and then we do an industrial, then we do it. We do it as a purposeful change for industrial. But I think if we're making a purposeful change here, and I know you guys didn't want to touch multifamily, but if we maybe improve the definition for multifamily, and I can help you think about this, Doris, relative to 2-family, relative to a dwelling unit, relative to accessory dwelling unit, we don't necessarily have to go through and change it in the implications for site plan, because multifamily involved in those definitions there, that if you have a slight tweak, it could mean your two family. So there's some really weird nuancing in our code.
Oh, no, I get it. No. Mhm.
That's my only suggestion, is maybe it's
Yeah.
handled in the definition, but
Yeah.
otherwise I completely support the two-family dwelling. It makes a total sense, but we do need that clarity in the definition between an accessory dwelling unit, because it's too close. It's too
Yeah,
close as it
okay.
stands, even
Mhm.
if you show that. So
Mhm.
someone could argue,
Yes.
when they're
They
building
sure could.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so I
yeah.
think if we can, give me a couple of minutes, I'll ask Claude, my Anthropic friend, and we can maybe come up with some interesting ways to maybe think
Yeah.
about how to
Yeah.
alter some
So,
of those
yeah.
definitions.
So Marnie, okay, so totally need the help, and so I'm facilitating, and just here, I believe, I don't think Laura came up with, I mean, we collaborated and then got the feedback. We didn't draft it. Maybe the law firm drafted it. I don't want to speak. I think the law firm actually drafted it. I see the weaknesses. I'm on board. In time, I'll be able to draft. I don't think I have the expertise to draft. I need that feedback and to facilitate. My job is to facilitate that aspect and to come up with ideas to help move forward good changes in the code to improve housing. So, yeah, I think there's problems in the way it's written. That's what I think. I
And
gotta
so
bring it back.
I'll make this
Yeah.
offer, Doris, is I'll take a little bit of time, probably tomorrow, and give
Okay.
you some written feedback. So like, I know this is a lot to digest and communicate back. So that I will kind of identify, and Laura was great in our communications, and I know she and Karina had thought about this, but it's just this bizarre code we have.
No,
And the
no, it's no,
definitions
yeah, no. Feel good about what you're saying. No, I don't feel that way at all. I feel like to get the best out of it. To get the best out of it. Yeah, no.
That's the Mesa Ridge residential, yeah, where it's multifamily, yeah, and what's inferred there. So I'll take a stab at it, and then,
If you take a stab
we
at
can
it,
nuance it.
heavy background in IRS code. I really do understand it. I understand how that it's problematic. It's problematic because in good faith, everyone builds the code at different points in time, and then conditions change and then amend to the code, and then the English language changes, and yeah, it's okay. And we'll do the best we can. That's what I think will happen. And it's got to go through town meeting, and it's got to get approved. I hope the town can see that the efforts put in, why we're doing it or why we're proposing it. That's it, so it's good. Everything's good.
All right, Doris, so.
Thank you, Doris.
My
Okay.
concern, I'm gonna throw a concern out,
Okay.
is that someone can do a two-family, but then there's nothing to stop them from also adding an ADU, how it's currently written, to a lot. So as long as it meets the septic and the setbacks, someone could actually do 3 units, if you will, on a lot. And as I look at this, I don't see a lot of this happening in potentially a Res A. So again, then I look at Res B, which is more the south side of town. We've added MBTA, and now we're potentially allowing for 3 units on 1 lot.
Yeah, so you got to allow an ADU 1 only with 2 family on 1 lot. Absolutely correct.
Right, so you technically, I think this is gonna be a hurdle at town meeting, because I know this is some of the talk I'm hearing.
Yeah, so the hurdle is pretty deep on the septic too for that, but yeah.
Right. But
it's a
again,
hurdle.
who knows,
But the
somewhere
hurdle
down
now.
the road.
Maybe you define a family as 2 primary residences, because remember, an ADU can only, if you only have 1 primary
Correct.
on a lot. So we add the word that those are 2 primary residencies.
Under one roof.
Under one, it's not under one roof,
Doesn't
because
have to
it
be,
could, it could
right.
be separate,
Right,
shared,
A two-family?
yeah.
yeah, so.
Okay,
They
so
have
we
to
have
share
that now. Wait.
Yeah.
We
It
have
doesn't
that
have to have a
problem
shared, I
now.
think so.
You know.
In that,
Mm.
but I do think we identify that maybe as 2 primary. because two-family would require two separate septics.
It does.
Okay, so again, this is just as I look as a
Yeah.
whole, I think somebody is gonna question, that's all, so.
But we allow two-family, we allow it, right? I guess we allow it. So we have that problem now. I'm just saying we have the problem.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
just
we
saying,
definitely do.
as it comes up at town meeting, I would expect someone to throw that out there.
I would agree.
And, it could become a problem. So, whether it's allowed now or not, Doris, I think there's a way that we can do this that, or you can do this, that, again, just tossing out the concern, that's all.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm not, if it could be, worded in the definition, but those are two titled properties, but only one ADU could go on now. So we don't have it doesn't matter. It's gonna
correct,
come up
but-
at town meeting. I gotcha. It's
Yeah,
absolutely gonna come up at town meeting.
again, some people are
Maybe.
gonna see that
Yeah.
you could get 3 units. This is a way to get 3 units.
Quickly.
Versus a
Quickly.
primary home and your, the ADU. So that's my only concern. Something
Okay,
to think
so,
about.
okay, it is on topic. I don't want to get off topic, but, and put a wrench in it. But there is in committee now in legislation just to make the two-family by right. And there
Correct.
wasn't, so there was really good, feedback that at least we're trying to manage it ahead of that. I mean, that could be, it's not maybe that's not the response at town meeting when it possibly comes up, but we're ahead of it. And that's a real positive, or we will have this very soon with all those problems with it.
Doris, I
So-
don't mean this to bring it up on a negative light. I just try to think ahead to town meeting and what may come up on town meeting floor. Because again, I've heard a lot of times over the years, someone stand up on town meeting floor and throw out a question that nobody thought of and it tanks something. So, and I understand that the state's doing it. It's not taking away from what you're doing. It's just trying to find a way to possibly alleviate an issue that may come up. That's all. That's why.
Yeah, no, I'm totally into it. No, I know it's not, I don't feel,
Okay, because I appreciate
I'm not
all the work
yeah.
that ZBA clearly is doing on this and, but I will leave it at that. Do we have anybody in the audience, I remembered this time, that has a hand up or would like to comment?
2 in the attendees and.
2 attendees and no one. Okay, Karina, do you have anything else for Doris?
I don't, that's it.
All right, Doris, I hope we were helpful and, we look forward to having you guys come back in September.
Yeah, we'll be back. And no, it's really good to talk to everybody tonight. And we won't address parking yet. That parking's on someone's list, right?
Okay.
Okay, take care. Have a great evening.
Thank
I
you, Doris. Much
appreciate
appreciated.
it. Much appreciated. Take care. Bye-bye. Yep.
Okay, next up is Planning Board Master Plan Implementation Committee Goals. I had mentioned to Debbie that it's completely up to her where we don't have a full board tonight to go through these goals. If she wants to do it, we're happy to do it, but.
Yeah, so thanks, Lisa, and I just prefer to wait for the full board. Honestly, I haven't looked at these in a while. These are not just master plan goals and specifically for planning board, but some others that, I've sort of accumulated as we've gone through. And, I just, not a hurry, so why don't we wait till we have the time on an agenda and that we have the full board.
I mean, I went through them. I think these are important. So I thank you for putting this together and bringing this forward. And it's definitely a worthy discussion for the board to have. So thank you for that. Okay, that being said, planners report.
Okay. Project updates. 4042 Central Street, which is an appeal at the ZBA for the zoning violations from building commissioner Mark Robidoux, was continued to the September 16th ZBA meeting. That's that one. Costco team, some of them are meeting in the planning office on August 24th in the afternoon to do a pre-application meeting. Lisa will be attending with me in order to just see the ropes of what we're going to expect them to submit. They did submit their expanded ENF under the MEPA program.
It's a lot of pages.
Yes.
I pulled it up
Yeah,
and started going through it, so.
and Lisa had actually intended the
Oh, the forum that they
yeah,
had.
the orientation form to direct people on how to comment about a month ago. And I don't think there was big attendance there. They don't usually
6
expect
people.
attendance, yeah,
It was very brief.
yeah. But you could get some information, a little bit of
Yep.
information. And that's that. Fayetteville Park expansion project, that's the one that the Recreation is looking for CPA funding at special town meeting to fund that, and they're working on a grant. Kristen Lavault, Lisa and I, Kathy Cook and Travis are going to meet on August 27th in the afternoon, just to talk about the different parking scenarios. Kristen, Lavault had a parking study done to see what kind of parking may be advantageous there. And, in discussing that, we'll talk about the site plan, review that will be required for the expansion of the park, and how do they incorporate that parking if it's off-site? There are ways to do that, I think. So we're just gonna brainstorm on that.
And also they're on the select board agenda for September 2nd.
Second, which is a Wednesday, because
The election's the first.
the election is on the Tuesday and you can't have a meeting, so that will be on there too. And we'll post an agenda in case the planning board members want to attend in a quorum.
That's why we're having the meeting in advance, because we were invited to attend as well. And Karina and I thought it made a lot of sense for everyone to just sit down in advance, so everybody knows prior to having a discussion that
Yeah.
could go,
Kathy will be there, Kristen, and.
we're all on the same page.
Yeah, and then,
Thank you, Karina.
you're welcome. And then, MTG salary study and job description. So MTG is the consulting firm that the town hired to do a salary study. And we submitted our revised or red line job descriptions. Marnie assisted me with mine in formulating that for the approach to potential grade increase for me. And then I did Colleen's as well. We put that in, and I actually am going to be interviewed on the 24th in the morning for the job analysis questionnaire that they had us fill out, and then they interview different roles just to get an idea directly. So that's moving forward. The possible special town meeting warrant articles, we've come down that it's just going to be right now the two-family bylaw. Any other considerations will be pushed to 2027 annual town meeting. I haven't gotten any additional feedback from the MWRC Engagement and Communications Project. I don't think you have that. Usually they give an update every half a year, like 3 to 4 or 5 months. They'll have gone to the next.
Yeah, I just had an intro call with them and they mentioned it, but I think they said they were wrapping that up, so they don't have it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and that's all. Let me just make sure that's all I have. Cluster premium. There you go. Just to make sure everybody knows, the select board set a date for Saturday, October 17th, 2026 for special town meeting beginning at 10 a.m. at the Trotter Middle School. The warrant was opened on the August 11th. And we actually got referral from the select board for the two-family after their meeting. The next day they sent us that, they referred it to us. We'll be expecting a couple projects. The 20 Southville Road, which is the MBTA Communities, the first project with Jim Mincasa. He's working on that. They're in conservation right now, but we'll be expecting that soon. Another quick, the Fay School has ball fields up in the northern part of Southborough. I forget the name of the street, but it's partially in Marlborough, and a lot of it is, but they plan on expanding the size and making artificial turf on the 2 soccer fields in conjunction with a youth soccer association, and then move the baseball field slightly over and enlarge that as well, but that'll stay regular grass. And they're doubling the parking in the Marlborough side, but adding lights and such. So I had a pre-application meeting letting them know that if you're putting the lights in Southborough and they're higher than a certain amount, you make sure you talk to the ZBA till the hour to find out what they have to do there. That's it.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Karina.
Yeah.
As always, staying on top of everything. Next up is approval of minutes. I don't believe we have the June 4th.
But yeah,
I
they're
didn't see
still
them
on
in the
my desk.
Dropbox. Okay. So that leaves us July 13th.
And Marty and Debbie provided Pauline some preliminary changes already.
Okay.
But we won't have any feedback from Tom or Alan yet. But we could take comments to already revise them, or you can approve them. I don't know. I haven't had this situation before that I can remember. Let's see.
I'm just trying to think, but there's only 3 of us here. Does it make sense to just table them or just do one?
It's 3. I think
Yeah, we just
we
do
can
them.
approve them and get
Let's
them
just do
through.
them.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
Just go ahead and
Yeah.
approve it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, can I make a motion then? Anything else?
No,
Okay, Liz, did you have any
Nope,
comments?
I'm all set.
Okay, make a motion to approve the planning board minutes from July 13th, 2026.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Brascio, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
All right. Our next meeting is September 14th. And that being said, do we have one final motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to adjourn in a second. All in favor, Brascio, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
and I checked because it was nice